Hey guys, welcome to my blog. This is Blessing of Sui. I'm the content creator of Farfromacurse, and thank you for joining us for Testimony Tuesday. So here we have Gigi, and she is going to talk about her testimony on how God got her through her doctor of physical therapy program. Now let's get it started. Okay, so thank you, Gigi, for joining Farfromacurse.
Glad to be here.
So can you go ahead and introduce yourself to the viewers and the readers and let them know who you are and let them know why you're joining Testimony Tuesday.
Well, my name is Gigi. I'm from Columbus. That's how we met. And I'm here to talk about my journey through my academic career and where I'm at today.
Okay, so can you let us know just 3 interesting facts about you?
Oh, okay. Well, one interesting fact is I really love sushi. I like sushi cakes. I like sushi burritos. I like sushi tacos. I like poke bowls. I like sushi pizza. Sushi pasta. I just like sushi. What's another one? Oh, I am a very competitive individual. I actually hate losing. I can be a poor sport sometimes, but if you're really not about winning, you can't be on my team. So, no. And the last fact, when I was an undergrad, I evacuated 940 plus girls out of my dorm after I was heating up a cinnamon roll for too long in the microwave. So I set the fire alarms off and I almost caught the building on fire. But yeah, so I was known as a cinnamon roll girl for about a month or 2, my first year. It was great.
Okay, so Cinnabon girl. What school did you go to?
I went to UGA.
Okay.
And
how was your undergrad experience?
Oh, it was good. I had a really great undergrad experience. The transition was hard, going from like high school to like a big college town. My mom wasn't there, my dad wasn't there, but I transitioned, got new friends, gained new experiences. I ran track my first year, stopped running track. That was a whole ordeal. And I pledged Delta spring 13, and yeah, it was a great experience.
So what made you choose physical therapy?
Okay, so I started as a pre-med major, and then I took chemistry, which was way hard. So I went and talked to my advisor, and I basically asked her what majors don't have OChem. And so she gave me a list of, possible majors. She asked me what my background was and my interest was, and that's how we came up on athletic training. And then I got into that major, and then I just added on exercise science because those 2 majors don't really differ from each other in terms of like courses. So I just took them together. And I ended up staying an extra year because of it, because I transitioned and changed majors, and those programs are 2 years long. It kind of added a year on to my track, which, it happens.
So how was the application process for the DPT program?
Okay, so I had a new advisor when I got into the program initially. So post-grad, you have to go to your advisors and tell them what your plans are. So I went to her and I talked to her about what I was going to do, and I told her the list of grad schools I was going to apply for physical therapy, and she basically told me that I was going to need to take a year off because I didn't meet the criteria. I needed to get more experience. PT school is very competitive, and she didn't think I met the requirements to apply. But everyone has their opinion. I feel like if you listen to everyone, you'd be cutting yourself short. So I just carried on what I was going to do. Emory was not my first choice. I didn't even apply to Emory. I was trying to leave. I was trying to go away, be far away. And so I applied to all the schools that were far away. And my mom was like, you need to apply to at least one school in state. And I was like, I don't want to. And she was like, well, you need to. So I was like, fine. So I applied to Emory. I started getting to denial letters. And so I was like, well, shoot. Maybe my advisor was right. Like, maybe I'm going to have to take a year off. Like, maybe I'm not qualified. So I started looking for ATC jobs because you can work right out of undergrad with that, with your certification. So I started looking for jobs. I was actually, I don't know what I was doing, but I ended up getting an interview with Emory. So I went to my interview, thought it went horribly, awful. Like, I thought it was awful. So I was continuing to look for jobs. I was with the swim team. That's what I was working with for my ATC. I was with the swim team. I was setting one of the players up, the swimmers up with some ice. An email came through my phone, and the only part I saw was congratulations. And I can't remember, I know I just dropped the ice and like ran out of the room. And like, you know how hotels have that little cubby with like vending machines? I like went into that corner and just cried and called my dad and called my mom. And so I told him I got in, and that was kind of like my journey into like physical therapy school.
So you applied to multiple schools, and the only school you got into was Emory, or you got into other schools?
The only school I got into was Emory.
Wow.
And I wasn't even going to apply to Emory.
Wow. And Emory is, I think, one of the top 5 schools in the nation for physical therapy.
It is. That's amazing.
So how was PT school? Was there ever a time where you just felt like you had it all together? Because, I mean, according to your Instagram story, she's always traveling.
I mean, sometimes I did feel like I had it together. Other times I did not have it together. I mean, I spent a lot of nights crying, a lot of nights not sleeping. I spent a lot of days, you know, making up stuff that I missed, failing exams, you know, it happens. So, I mean, I feel like it comes with the territory, and you have to be okay with not being perfect because, you know, stuff happens. And no, 99% of the time, I did not have it all together. But on the outside, I made it look like I did have it all together.
That's key. Fake it till you make it, guys. Fake it till you make it. No.
Major key.
Okay, so describe your feelings in the last month of PT school right before graduation.
A lot was going on in the last month. You know, I had research, and then I had boards, and like everything was just kind of piling up on top of me. So I started to get like really bad anxiety. You know, it came to a point, was like, you know, at the beginning, I was like, oh, you know, I have it, you know, I got it. And then it went to, oh, maybe I don't got it, you know. So it wasn't until after I took my boards where it just really went downhill. It was like that whole waiting period of, you know, how did I do? And I walked out of that test thinking I failed miserably. So, you know, I was already like, I tend to think negative a lot. So I always think the worst of things. It's really bad. Don't do it. So I thought I failed. I was like, what does this mean for my future? What does this mean for my future, you know, possible positions? Oh my God, I'm gonna have to start studying again. You know, I actually have PTSD from studying for that exam. So it was kind of like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to go through this all over again. And so that was a really tough moment for me. But I had a really good support team. You know, I remember talking to my sister once, and you know, I told her how I feel and how, you know, I thought I failed and all this other stuff. And, you know, she basically, you know, told me you can't, you know, she gave me an acronym, which I had never heard before. And she's like, you know what fear means? And it means false evidence appearing real. So I was like, I have never heard that before, you know, and it really like stuck out to me because you can't really like make things there that aren't there. And that reminded me of, you actually made a post. What was it? Philippians. Help me with the verse 4.
Philippians 4:13.
Yes, when it says, you know,
Philippians 4:13.
Yes, fix your thoughts on things that are real and true and right, and things of, you know, success and, you know, positivity. And so it was a good moment for me. So yeah.
Wow. So has there ever been a point in your life when you felt like God was trying to get your attention?
There's a lot. So I remember one day I was walking in the mall. I was with my friend from class, you know, stress shopping. So what I do. So we were leaving, we were walking through the food court, and this little boy, I'll never forget, on this oversized yellow shirt, little church shirt, there was this church. He came up to me in the mall, he was like, hey, and I was like, hey, and he was like, Jesus loves you, and I was like, thank you. And then he gave me a little note, and it was like a little scripture about Jesus loving me. And so, you know, I just thought it was kind of weird because I wasn't expecting that. Another incident, it happened kind of weird. So I was working with the high school. I was sitting on the bleachers, and he's a Christian fellowship. He kind of comes and talks to the football players from time to time. He came up to me and he's like, hey, why do you wear that cross? And I was like, no one's ever asked me that before. So when he asked me, I was kind of like caught off because I've been wearing this cross since undergrad. So my brother gave it to me when I started college. Because it's like a hand-me-down, like when you start, college. So he gave it to me. So no one has ever asked me that. And I had been wearing it for about 6 years. Like, I don't ever really take it off. So he asked me that question, and then, we went into detail about God, and, he was trying to get me to, like, get more involved in the church and, learning about God. And, because this necklace was my grandmother's necklace. And so that was basically my answer. But, he encouraged me to kind of dig deeper into, like, what it means. So then a couple of days later, I was sitting in class, and my classmate, we've been classmates for 2 years, decided to pull me to the side. And she was like, hey, I have a question. I was like, yeah, girl, what's up? And she was like, why do you wear that cross?
So this happened in the span of what?
2 days. And unrelated.
2 days. So the first day, second day, the third day?
It was the third day. And so these two people, whoa. Whoa. Okay, so woo. So it happened 2 days later. She told me that, and she asked me that question, and then we had a whole conversation about it. And she was also trying to encourage me to dig a little deeper, get more involved. So then that happened. And then, another incident was I was very worried about, school. And then one time I woke up and something was like, Gigi, go to church. And, I go to church, but nothing really wakes me up like, get your clothes on. So I got my clothes on. I was like, all right, we're going to church. So I went to church, and the sermon was about Matthew 4:22, Jesus walking on the water. So basically he started, telling about, how Jesus commanded his disciples to get in the boat and sail across the water. And Jesus went up in the hills to pray. And then while the disciples were going across the water, they got into heavy winds, and heavy waves started to come. And then, they looked and saw Jesus walking across the water. And he said, don't be afraid. I am here, And then, even Peter was like, hey, if you're real, prove it. And God was like, okay, come on out the water. So he came out the water, he started walking, then he got scared and he started to sink. And then God grabbed him and said, why did you doubt me? So that was the synopsis. But the whole summary was, winds and waves are there to cultivate you and strengthen you. And just because you are experiencing, we're gonna have to cut.
No.
No. Can we cut? I can't cry on camera. Can we cut?
Gigi, no.
Dang, I didn't get tissue. Okay, cut it. Okay, so just because you have winds and waves in your life, God assigns winds and waves, even when you're heading in the right direction. So sometimes he's giving you this, to test your faith and to see if you will, allow God to be a light in your life and allow him to mold you and build you for your assignment. So that takes me back to the scripture. It was he also talked about John 16 something. It was taken about, so, you're going to have trials, you're going to have tribulations, but be of good cheer, for I have already overcome the world. So they talked about that as well. So that was just something that really stuck out to me. I always go back and read those notes. So, just stay in the boat. That was the whole thing, stay in the boat. Let him build you and strengthen you for what's to come. And that was just, something that was powerful.
Wow. And you're really emotional right now, and that is totally understandable, because whenever you go back to those moments in our lives are set there so that we can go back and see how God transformed our lives. So you're really emotional right now because you're thinking about where you were at that moment, and at that moment where you were coming from at that moment. So everything is literally just connecting and aligning. And now those are really tears of joy because this is Testimony Tuesday. This is Testimony Tuesday.
Yeah,
so I am glad you're sharing that.
So let's see. How do you attribute this testimony to God coming through for you?
The question was, how do you attribute this testimony to God coming through for her?
So, I started to apply to residencies. This is where I was trying to get my post-grad stuff planned. So I applied to school in Ohio. I was all amped. I wrote, the essays were super long. I thought they were super in-depth. I mean, there's no way you could not want me, And then, there's a word. It's called, I don't know if I'm saying this right, apophenia or something like that. I found it a couple days ago. But it's basically saying, you perceive things to be related that are not related. So when I applied to Ohio, I was like, oh, there's no way they're going to want me. I was driving. I would see Ohio stickers on cars and, that's a sign from God. I'm good. They want me.
That's actually good.
And so
I'm going to look that word up.
And so, I was seeing signs. I was seeing other stuff about Ohio that, I didn't know this before I had applied. So I was like, oh, this must be a sign. They want me. Denied. They didn't want me. For whatever reason. I also applied to 2 other schools, Arizona and Miami. Arizona did want me. They want me for an interview. I was skeptical about it. My parents didn't want me driving, even being that far. I've never been to the East Coast, let alone Arizona. I've never been over there, so I don't even know what's over there. And so, but I decided to go forth with it because it had been a couple weeks. I hadn't heard from Miami. I figured they didn't want me. I applied to them split decision. It wasn't even something I had even thought about, in depth. I just applied to them because I didn't even think I had what they wanted. So I was just like, I'm just going to apply. All they can say is no. I've heard so many no's in my life. It's just, you got to move on. So I went forth Arizona, booked my plane ticket. Couple weeks, maybe a week or and a half later, I got an email from Miami. I was like, oh, here's my rejection letter. So I opened it and it was like, we would like to interview you on Monday. This was Friday. So now I'm flustered. I just booked a $400 flight to Arizona. I'm just thinking all these things. I think of things at the same time. And so now I'm like, I gotta go research before I have my interview. So I have my interview Monday. I thought it went fine. But as we got off the phone, the lady that was sitting on the phone interview, all I heard was red flag. To this day, I don't know what it was. But all I thought was, well, there goes that. 32 minutes later, I got an email from him. I was like, oh, that was quick. So it's basically telling me, they have a big pool of candidates, but, we want to, it's very competitive, but we were just wondering, would you be interested in our other program? And, at first I thought he was just throwing me off, oh, try this. And, so I spoke to my advisor at school. I spoke to my professor, they're just like, well, if it's not something you want, then, just don't do it. And I was so skeptical because, it wasn't the program I applied for.
Initially?
No.
So the first program wasn't the program?
They're the same school, but there's different programs. So this was a different program he was referring me for. Because he was like, I think you'd be a good fit, for this program. We want you to interview with this director. So, I said, okay, I'm willing to talk to him, So I did. And, we had a good conversation, but I was still I feel like he's just throwing me off. And then I remember I was on Instagram. This is when, this is where you started your whole, when you were starting Farfromacurse.com and you were posting your little story, and your story said, God will push you in positions you didn't even apply for. And at this moment, I hadn't even told you what was going on in Miami. I don't even remember the last time we talked. We do talk. We are friends. But, there's times go by. Things happen. So when you sent that, I just sent you, the first thing I thought, oh, my God, I have to tell Blessing what just happened. So, I sent you the Instagram message or whatever. And, we talked about it. But after seeing that, it made me want to give this a true shot. So, I talked to them more, and all this happened within a 4 days time span. So got the interview, talked to the director. 4 days later, I got an offer letter for that program.
Wow.
And I took it. And all I could think of was, God, I just lost out on $400 and I still had to pay. But look at God. He said, hold up. It was a non-refundable ticket. But my brother was like, just submit a request and see what happens. So I submitted a request for a non-refundable ticket. Got my refund back a week later. So it was great. I didn't lose any money. Got my refund back, and it was great. And that's how that happened.
Okay. So that basically rolls into the next question. Where are you now?
I am, I passed boards. Go me. I am currently looking for housing for my residency in Miami. I'm going to Miami. If I can find a place to stay, we're going to Miami. I'm gonna live in a box. And yeah, so all this situation just told me, even when you are, even in the unknown, you have to always trust God, because everything is already written.
So what advice do you have for people who are thinking about applying to PT school, and or just anyone that's probably studying for a major exam and they have really bad anxiety?
I would say, first off, don't be discouraged by rejection or failure, because you have to remember that these are obstacles, these are waves, these are winds that are there to strengthen you. So you have to always remember, that part of it. And don't, when you're talking to God, don't ask him, can you remove this? Ask him, can he strengthen you to endure it? Okay. Oh, we're gonna have to cut.
No, we're not.
Asking can he strengthen you to endure it? Because in the end, it's going to, like I said, prepare you for what is to come. So never ask him to remove it, because it's there for a reason. And I cry so much. It is ridiculous how much I cry.
It's okay. We all cry.
And, don't ever think that you are not worthy. Okay. So,
and he opened what? He opened doors.
He opened doors that cannot be closed.
No one could close them. No one.
So, just always remember, God is walking on the water, and he's walking with the wind. So he walks on your problems, and he walks with your problems. So
I need to go to that church.
Even when you think you're alone, you always have to remember that he is there, and he hears you, and he's listening. So
that's great. Well, thank you, Ajalan. Well, Dr. Cobb, for joining us for Testimony Tuesday. I'm so glad that you were able to share your testimony with us, and I hope that it encouraged everyone out there, whether you are studying for an exam, even if you're in high school watching this right now, if you're in your master's program or in a doctor's program, just know that God is always with you if you put him first, and he will always show you the signs that he's with you as well. So thank you so much for joining us, and until next time.